pregnant.
Blimey. Yes, you are. Almost ready to
God
pop.
damn
How did you
it.
get like that?
On holiday, got involved with someone, didn't take precautions, like an idiot.
I'm not being hostile.
Yes, you are. You're being hostile and selfish. There are patients on board who need to get to Rhesus 1 as a matter of urgency. My job is to keep all of you safe. You're stopping me from doing that.
What am I looking at? What the f... Did this suddenly turn into a comedy?
See this, Yaz? Antimatter drive. Oh, I did a bit on antimatter at school. Never quite understood it.
The thing with antimatter is you either have to find it or generate it. That's what this bit does. Particle accelerator. Like at CERN. We did that in physics. No, but the thing at CERN is massive. In your time, generating antimatter costs a massive amount of money. This is progress. Things get smaller, faster, and cheaper. This is like the iPhone version of CERN, accelerating enough particles to power this entire craft. So how does it work? The particle accelerator smashes the atoms together, like a little antimatter factory to produce positrons, which are then stored very carefully inside electric and magnetic fields. The positrons interact with the fuel materials to produce heat, which produces thrust. That's pretty old school, this one. It's beautiful. Antimatter powering the movement of matter, bringing positrons into existence to move other forms of life across space. I love it. Conceptually, and actually.
And it's got nerve.
Like, honestly, is this a comedy now? Oh, it ate the dildo. What the fuck? Hi, everyone. I'm here with my friend again. Hello, friend.
Hello.
So Toni, what did we just finish doing?
I don't even know what we just did. I don't know what I just saw. I don't know what just happened. Yeah. Chris, what did we just do?
We just watched this thing called the Tsuranga stupid name Conundrum. I'm actually kind of mesmerized. I didn't think things could get worse, but I think I may have just watched possibly the worst episode in Doctor Who history. And amazingly, it had nothing to do with ideology. It was just absolutely terrible. I'm going to summarize it in 2 words. No, 3. It was shit. What did you think of this masterpiece?
Well, if you take away the pregnant man, which was the political part, it was still just a clusterfuck. I can't really put it any nicer than that. I mean, think of a gooey, sloppy, globby substance and try to describe it. That's pretty much what this was. It was.
You mean shit?
You took the words out of my mouth. It was just this shapeless goo-ga, and that's what it was. I don't even know where to begin to describe the plot or what happened.
Well, basically, I'll describe it as a bunch of stuff happened. Chibnall realized, oh crap, I have to write an episode. And it's like a 6-year-old threw together an assignment at the last minute. And tone, it was all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, the episode begins there on a random planet, I guess a Wall-E planet, because it's just covered in garbage. So there's no explanation what they're looking for. It's just a random planet. Then they're just magically teleported onto a medical ship, and
did they say what they were looking for? I don't think they did.
It was something about needle in a haystack, but I don't think they elaborated. And so they get transported to this medical ship, right? And it's a massive, big freaking ship, and it literally has 2 patients on it. There's the pregnant dude and the general. That's it. Right? So that's interesting. And then just kind of dick around on this ship, and then there's just a random, I guess, gremlin thing that attacks them, which poses another problem. And that's it. That's really it.
So what did we think of the gremlin?
I speechless. I think it's a new
I was
low.
watching a bad comedy at the like as soon as it came up. I'm like, really, you got to be kidding
I
me.
think it's comparable to, remember Love and Monsters? Remember that monster thing?
Oh no, I actually no,
It's
I've
comparable to that
admitted I don't
monster.
mind Love and Monsters. No, Love and Monsters is an absolute masterpiece compared to this.
Yeah, I actually agree, but it just kind of reminded me of that kind of monster. You know,
the
just kind of a
Absorbaloff.
yeah.
Well, the thing with Love and Monsters is they'd actually had a contest, and kids drew or designed monsters. So it was actually designed by a kid. Whoever won the contest, the monster was featured. So at least the Absorbaloff, it was designed by a kid.
But I think it's on the next level of
designed by-
bad if it's Chris Chibnall, and it's literally kind of even worse than the monster from Love and Monsters.
I miss Moffat. I will say that now. I miss Moffat.
Yeah, as we were watching this, we were both just saying that we actually kind of miss Moffat, even though, you know, we hated some of his episodes, but it was enjoyable to hate it. And
Like this was bad on every level. Even the you were talking about some of the direction and the shots near the end.
yeah,
They were trying to be deep.
there was some really bad shot framing and shot composition. It was so funny. At one point, it was I think Chris Chibnall wanted it to be a very dramatic and heartfelt moment, and it just kind of just zoomed in on the general's just teeth, and then there's a bunch of lens flares, and I was like, what the hell is going on right now?
We were watching Star Trek.
Yeah. And yeah, oh my god, it was so funny. And yeah, as you mentioned, the pacing. Let's talk about the pacing, Chris.
Well, the pacing was all over the place. This episode didn't actually know what it was. In one moment, you're learning about Ryan's traumatic childhood, and then you go to Garbage Monster. Then you go back to the pilot abusing opioids or whatever, and then you switch to the pregnant dude, and then back to more drama, and then back to Garbage Monster.
That's basically that. You summed up the entire episode.
But nothing really happened in this episode other than a bunch of stuff that was forced in.
Well, another thing about pacing it, I started feeling this a lot through the Moffat era, and I think that's one of the big differences between his episodes and Russell T Davies stuff, is that at the end of every episode with Russell T Davies, there was some kind of character development or character change. So something happened that affected our main characters, and they grew as a result of that. Whereas with Moffat, everything just kind of stayed the same. So nothing really, changed. It was just, next week it's just another thing, and they all remained constant. With this, I think what Chibnall is trying to do is he's trying to kind of develop the characters that we have here, but he's just doing it at the most inconvenient times in the story. So
he's trying to be.
He's switching
Chibnall.
on the.
Or no, he's trying to be RTD.
Yeah, or he's trying. I think he's switching on his Broadchurch kind of stuff, and it's really funny because at some points, like literally when they're having a conversation, it's just Broadchurch, and then boom, we're back to sort of Doctor Who or science fiction.
I don't know what he's trying to do. See, the thing with Davies and... Well, oh no, he's trying. He just sucks. The thing with RTD and Moffat is they were both talented. They were good at what they had done. They'd both proven themselves beforehand. Chibnall just sucks. I'm actually going to go back and watch his... Torchwood episodes for the first time in probably a decade and see if I can narrow down some trends. But this one, it was... See, I think the sad thing is you could tell that he was actually trying in the writing, which makes it really bad. Just throwing in the emotional stuff, but then you're also saying, like, it's the episode you were just throwing in there. Also, the one thing you said while we were watching it is... the sense of wonder and, things that should actually be there that he seems to forget in every episode.
Yeah, it does seem like the characters are just kind of dropped into the story. And I don't know, what the biggest thing that attracted me to Doctor Who is like that kind of exploration of time travel and discovering, both parties are discovering each other, like when they arrive in a new planet or a new time zone or anything like that. There's a sense of wonderment. And equally, there's also should be a sense of wonderment from the other side. Like that's the characters that are seeing them for the first time, and we don't have any of that. They're just they're the given, they just show up, and that's it. There's no questions asked.
Well, it's kind of like he forgot to write that part of the script.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Which one?
The pregnant one.
Yeah.
How did you feel, Chris?
I honestly don't know exactly what. I know Chibnall was trying to get messages across, but there was stuff about absent fathers in there. Absent fathers was a big theme throughout the episode, a very forced theme. I think there was an element of transgenderism. Not that I have anything wrong with transgendered people, but that also seemed very forced. So those were kind of the two things that I think that's where he was trying to go, but it was executed so poorly. I couldn't even tell really definitively where he was trying to go with this.
Well, throughout the whole thing, I had to remind myself that this is for kids, right? It's targeted for kids, I would say, maybe 10 and older. And would you allow your 10-year-old to see something like that? I don't know. Maybe you would, but I personally
wouldn't allow myself to see this.
Yeah, I thought my psyche was abused quite a bit.
Well, they're aiming it to be educational.
How is that educational? Could you imagine a little boy, watching this episode, and then, what kind of thoughts would go through his head?
Why can't I be pregnant?
Yeah, why can't I be pregnant? I want to be pregnant. I want to be a dad. What? What?
Well, it's not it has been there was Junior, the Schwarzenegger movie, which was awful. I saw that in the theater for some really stupid reason. Quantum Leap did a pregnancy episode,
but are
which
those,
actually in
are
that
those
case was
children's movies? Are those kids' movies?
Junior wasn't for anybody. It was terrible. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Google it. Don't watch it. Just look at the trailer.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. I know Quantum Leap.
Yeah, Quantum Leap, it was more of a family show.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really any agendas trying to get across there. But yeah, no, I can see how this could warp kids.
But it was just literally, it was the most retarded thing ever. From my point of view. It was just nuts. Absolutely nuts. And every time it was awful to watch. And could you imagine, the guy that applied for this acting role, who writes this? Okay, there's gonna be a pregnant guy, right? And you gotta be super pregnant, dude. And yeah, now action. What?
Well, one of the early leaks, I don't know if it was a leak, but a picture was posted of the pregnant dude. And throughout many of my arguments on the YouTubes, which I've had a few, in one of my videos, maybe it was two of them, I know I brought it up at some point during the summer in one of my videos, the ridiculous plot of the pregnant dude. And some of my usual haters were saying, no, they're trolling. This is not going to be the case. You're just creating bullshit for the sake of creating bullshit. No, they went there.
Little did they know, huh?
So to everybody who said that I was over-exaggerating potential issues with the show throughout my videos over the past year, literally everything that I predicted was going to happen has happened. Including pregnant dude.
Yeah, and even the way he was behaving, I mean, I don't want to start the whole, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, but did you notice throughout this episode, basically all the guys were either servants, well, in the case of the drone, nobody,
yep,
which is the brother, or basically taking on a woman's role, aka the pregnant dude. And then all the women,
yeah,
there was the general, there was the doctor, there was that nurse who was in charge, because the nurse guy was killed off right away, so I'm not even going to talk about him. But I mean, there's nothing wrong, of course, with women taking on these roles, but it's episode throughout episode, this is happening. And if we're going to talk about equality, I think, shouldn't there be, I don't know, general who are men, or maybe we should have a pregnant woman who's maybe also a housewife. Like, what's wrong with that? If we're having stay-at-home dads that are shown in the series and pregnant men, why don't we have same thing for classic women roles and classic men roles? Like, why don't we have that? I don't think this is equality. I think this is the reverse of it, because if you're gonna have a power, like, if literally every single episode we only have women in power, what happened to that equality, right?
Well, it's the idea of, like, I call myself an egalitarian, although apparently saying that also
Chris,
means you're
no way.
Sexist.
No way, dude.
Like, and it's discriminatory to say that it should be the best person that gets the job and so forth. But it's the same thing that we're seeing in most sci-fi, just Star Wars, just as another example, which is now pretty much down the toilet. The character of Rey, completely flawless, perfect out of the box, no development, no nothing. So there's no in between, there's no varying levels, there's just perfection, and then what would we call the guys? Idiots? Imperfection?
You actually bring up an interesting point, and I've been thinking about this a lot. You know how there's a lot of female characters now, like we have Ghostbusters, they've converted them all into a full female cast. We've got Star Wars with the female lead. We've got Doctor Who now, and many others, like Terminator. I believe the upcoming film is doing the same thing. And I like everybody from the left and the SJWs and all those people, they're claiming that it's, they're finally representing women and it's great and we're finally getting those rights and the issues are being brought up. A thought just hit me where, isn't that kind of degrading that those women characters are writing off the success of male characters? Like, basically the only reason we got a female doctor is because the male doctor was a success, is because that show was successful. So you're telling me you cannot come up with a interesting, creative new show or film with a female lead? All of those shows have to use the success of the male character, that a lot of people put a lot of hard work into, and that's just taken over by a female one, and that's presented as something that's equal. I would actually be offended if that's what literally all it is women riding off the success of men. So they're not actually that, strong and independent. It's just, again, showing that they're dependent on the men, if you want to put it like that. So to me, this is actually a very hilarious kind of discovery.
Well, it's the kind of the SJW mindset, because these people they're nuts, but they're not capable of actually creating their own properties, mainly because they suck. So the only way that they can get their message across is to co-opt existing franchises. But the thing that I always find funny is they say they've had no representation. Well, no. This is actually before, because this SJW bullshit's only been going on for it's been out of hand for about 5 years. But if you look at the past, I'm like, Aliens, Ripley, normal person, pretty much considered an icon of science fiction, considered one of the, most iconic sci-fi characters of all time. Sarah Connor, same thing. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Well, also look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which actually, it was a feminist program, but it was second-wave feminism, so Buffy had flaws. Star Trek Voyager, which 1995. So we're looking at 23 years ago. January 95. I actually watched the premiere. I'm old. But basically, you had a female captain. Her gender never became an issue. I can't really think of an instance where it was ever used throughout. It was 170 some odd episodes throughout the show. And, she wasn't Janeway wasn't degrading towards men. Like, it was just basically, okay, this is a strong character, she was flawed. So that's the difference between the way it was done in the past and the way it was done now. Where previously they were just regular people, now they're perfect.
And yeah, I mean, I have nothing against equal representation. It's just I don't think we should twist and ruin the stuff that we already have. Come up with something new. You know, create new shows, create movies. Just don't touch the stuff that's already, you know, there and is loved and it works.
Well, even Doctor Who, it's always had female representation, going back to 1963.
Well, a lot of people say that females are only companions, and hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
But there's always the idea, and I know Whittaker has pushed this, where the Doctor Who, or the companion, has always been the screaming woman. No, if you go back to 1963, it was actually originally conceived as an ensemble show. You had the Doctor, his granddaughter, whose position as being a teenager, so probably 15. But you also had Ian and Barbara. But Barbara wasn't afraid to tell the Doctor off. She was not a weak companion by any means. So going right back to the beginning of the show, like, that whole idea is just bullshit.
Yeah, and if we look at, I don't know, there's just been so many different, I mean, I've only seen, obviously, the show. I'm familiar with it since 2005, and I've seen a lot of the classic episodes, but I'm not too familiar with them. But every companion is different, and yeah, there were, like, you know, like Rose, she was kind of, you know, she was the blonde, but, you know, we had also Martha, and she was a doctor, like, she was studying, she was a student, but she wasn't, you know, just a stupid companion. And then we had Clara, who was this omniscient, godlike being, and we can see how that worked out. It's just, you know, the dynamic of the Doctor and a companion is obviously the Doctor, he's there to explain what's happening, and the companion has to ask questions. And that's just the way it is. And it can be a male companion, it can be a female, like Rory and Amy, thank you. A lot of people might not like them, but they still worked as companions. So,
well, one thing about Martha, which I brought up, is in her first episode, Smith and Jones, one line that comes from her is, the title of Doctor is something that has to be earned, which is, you'd never hear something like that on the show now.
Oh, no, of course not. Because that means that's attacking the womanhood of the Doctor, or whatever.
Well, if you look at the companions before Clara, like, I hate Rose, but, you know, Rose, definitely, she was not a perfect person. She had issues. It was more the infatuation with the Doctor that kind of irritated me, that and the fact that she just got cocky near the end. Martha, you know, a doctor in training. Donna, my age, actually, a lot of issues. You know, kind of been a failure at life, but you saw development there, and then, well, they wiped her brain, which was kind of sad. Then Amy, you know, basically she started out as a, what was she, like a nurse telegram, or what was she again?
Well, she was basically a stripper.
Yeah, well, no, she wasn't really a stripper, but she was
basically like an escort stripper person.
Yeah, something like that. I don't think they ever really clarified exactly what she was. I think she was like a singing telegram or something. And then you have Clara, and then that's when everything switched. Clara was actually, well, no, Clara, because she was a completely different character each season. And Series 7 Clara was still a regular person for the most part, other than, you know, omniscient being, you know, the Super Clara. Yeah, well, with Season 8, that's when you saw the change, and then she became equal and then superior to the Doctor.
Anyway, this was a complete disaster. There was basically no redeeming qualities. Again, I said the music was good, but everything else, it was, again, most boring thing ever. Where are the aliens? Where's the adventure? This was like...
Well, we had the alien, we had Garbage Gremlin.
That's not an alien. That's a, I don't know, some space rat. It was just bad.
You'd think in 2018 they could get CGI, well, better. Like, okay, like the little whatever the hell they were in Partners in Crime. Okay, they looked ridiculous.
But there were at least a lot of them. It was fun. You know, and,
yeah, and it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and there was at least story behind them too. In this case, it was honestly like, where's the? They were again just locked in a room, and that's it, in a white room. And this was kind of similar to, as I said when we were watching it, it's a mix of 42, Under the Lake, and Midnight, I guess, and that's it.
I wouldn't say Midnight, because Midnight was a brilliant episode.
It was a brilliant episode. I'm just saying it was like that kind of contained within one room, and that's it.
Well, they used to, kind of one of the tropes in Classic Who was the base under siege story. So there was a little bit of that. Like the second Doctor, I'd say 2/3 of his episodes were base. He had one season where it was all base under siege stories, but this was like a base under siege story that sucked. Where it's like, yes, you're stuck in a place and a bunch of. Basically, I'll define this episode as a bunch of stuff happened.
Yeah, a lot of uninteresting stuff happened, and yeah, you know how the nurse and I actually even forgot that he died in the beginning. So this guy, we're introduced to this nurse dude who's one of the two nurses on the ship, and I think like 10 minutes into the episode, maybe even less, he literally gets jettisoned outside into the space, and it's so sad, and it's like, move on with the story, let's move on with our lives, because I didn't care about that character.
I forgot that happened.
Literally, right? So yeah, he died, and then the general died. Hilariously, it was the most hilarious death ever. While piloting the ship, because you know she has the pilot's heart syndrome or whatever that is. And again, I didn't care about that general. She just seemed like a complete bitch. She's like, I'm a decorated general. I'm dead.
I just pulled up Gallifrey base. So yes, people keep saying, why don't I call them out? Yes, this is the forum that's been shitting all over me, and I find it hilarious. My goat is going to tackle this later on in the week. But I pulled up their rankings for this episode, and even this forum is calling this episode what it is, shit.
How many more episodes do we have left, by the way?
This is the halfway point.
Oh boy.
It's, basically, so there's just under 1,200 votes. So 36 people think this episode was fantastic, the absolute pinnacle. These are the people that think every week is the absolute pinnacle because they're morons. But we have more votes for one. I'd rather listen to a tape loop of leaf blower noise. 102 people voted this the worst ever. But the ratings, they're falling pretty much in the middle to bad. So if Gallifrey Base is calling this episode shit, then it's really shit. Now here's the other fun thing I like doing. I'm just going to go see what the reviewers are saying. Oh, even the Nerdist doesn't like this. Okay, so the Nerdist. This is actually, the implications of this are actually pretty bad. Okay, so the Nerdist. Okay, so here's the headline. So, Doctor Who faces a frustrating little monster known as Plot. Okay, so Nerdist doesn't like this. I think even some of Chibnall's biggest supporters are going to have a hard time justifying this episode as anything other than complete shit.
Well, literally, the episode starts with garbage. I think that's actually a very clever symbolism for Chibnall for his own episode, I think. It just started in garbage and the episode was garbage.
But I honestly... Okay, so basically, just to put this in context, so you've got a brand new producer who's written all the episodes so far, 5 episodes in, and we have really up until... Well, okay, let's look at really bad episodes. Okay, so Fear Her, for the longest time, was the worst episode.
Oh yeah, that was pretty bad.
Then the Doctor, oh, that was horrible. Then the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe became the worst episode ever. Well, for me. Then the return of Dr. Mysterio.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Why did you remind
this? This is worse than all of those.
It's all coming back to me. I think there was.
This is worse.
There was. I don't remember Matt Smith's era that well anymore. There must have been something from his time.
Oh well, that
dream,
that would be
dream episode?
the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
Oh. Well.
Oh yeah. Dream episode. It was bad, but not as bad as this.
No.
This is actually, and if I look at these 5 episodes, any of them could be a contender for the worst episode ever. Well, the Woman Who Fell to Earth, worst introduction to a Doctor ever. The second episode was so dull I can't even remember what it was about. And then you had Rosa, which was the race baiting episode. Then you have last week's episode, which actually I didn't get a lot of hate on YouTube about that because a lot of people agreed with me. Even people that don't normally agree with me were agreeing with me on that. So that's a sign that things are not going to go well. Oh yes, and they're not doing a Christmas special this year. And the reason is because Chibnall couldn't come up with any ideas.
I read somewhere that they're just doing a New Year's special.
Yeah, no, they switched it to a New Year's special, but I'm like, what? You couldn't turn Santa into a racist misogynist?
Oh
or
no,
something?
they have to have black
like he's
Santa
an old white
this
dude.
time.
Yeah, it's but I could see why Chibnall has run out of ideas, considering this was his 5th episode. So I'm assuming by his 5th episode he ran out of ideas. Okay, so next week we're going to have a history lesson. Anybody want to venture a guess where this history lesson is going to go? It's going to be educational.
And isn't that lovely? That's what Doctor Who is all about.
Yes. Well, this one did educate us about particle physics. I don't know, I couldn't even pay attention to what you were saying.
I was listening to that and I was
so
like, oh my God. Like, first of all, half of it didn't make sense from a physical point of view. And then, second of all, again, kids, this show's for kids. They literally stopped in the middle of the episode. And remember, they're in danger, right? To talk about antimatter, and then positron, electron annihilation, and the whole particle collider, and physics, and all of that good stuff. Just, oh my God. Why? Just why?
I couldn't pay any attention to it because of the bad delivery.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Talking about delivery too, I think it's really funny. As soon as Chris and I started watching the episode, both of us just went, "Jodie, shut up."
Oh yeah, that's right. It was literally simultaneously, like 2 seconds in, as soon as she opened her mouth.
Yeah. I think throughout this entire episode, all I could think about was like, "Oh my God!" Like, just can we just stitch her mouth together? She's so annoying. The tone of her voice, the way she says things, her expressions. It's just, at first it was funny, at this point it's just annoying.
I never even found it funny. I found it annoying from the beginning. So, any final words on said episode?
Well, let's give this rating out of 10, Chris.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this 0.5 out of 10, to be honest. It was just such an unenjoyable 45 minutes of my life.
I'm just trying to think of any positives. Like even the directing was bad. I still like Graham. I don't like what he's being given to work with, but I like Graham. I don't mind Ryan's character, even though I keep saying that week after week because they're the only positives. But the material they're given to work with is crap. I can't give it a 0.
I also want to say, just to clarify this, I think both you and I will like Graham, but that's not because he's a white male. That's because he's the only grounded and more or less relatable character who's not acting like a complete idiot and not just sapping every 20 minutes.
I give it 0.25. There.
Oh, look at that.
I didn't give it a 0. I gave it a 0.25 out of 10. That's the lowest rating I've ever given a Doctor Who episode. And I won't give it 0 because it was a thing.
Yeah, it was still
just called it was a thing.
More or less filmed thing with dialogue in it. So.
Well, there we go. So we got a 0.5, a 0.25. Are we doing this again next week, Toni?
I hope so. Yeah.
So so that's our review. So as always, everyone, thank you for watching. God help us for next week.